The show opens in Ravka, a nation which is divided into two from east to west by a deadly and mysterious force called the Fold. The Fold is considered a region engulfed in darkness and infested with beasts. Ever since it was created, Ravka has been at war with its surrounding nations, Fjerda in the north and Shuhan in the south. Due to this, Ravka is heavily guarded by armies, consisting of 1st and 2nd units. The 1st army are normal soldiers, while the 2nd army are called Grisha, the elite ones with special abilities. In East Ravka, we are introduced to our protagonist, Alina Starkov, who is traveling to the coastal army camp in Krybirsk with her fellow 1st unit cartographers. On the way, she reflects on her past memories, in which an orphanage supervisor told her that it was the Fold that claimed Alina's parents' lives. Upon arriving at the Fold, Alina reunites with her childhood best friend from the orphanage, Mal Orestev, who is now a tracker with the 1st Army. Both of them expect to be together for a while, as their units have been paired up for a mission, serving at the edge of the Fold. However, their happiness is short-lived, as their commander chooses Mal as a part of a special team who will cross the Fold to trade supplies. Alina is concerned for his safety, as it's an extremely dangerous journey, but they can do nothing about it. That night, Alina doesn't receive any food just because her mother was from Shuhan. Seeing this, Mal decides to sneak into a tent of the 2nd Army. Because of their powers and status, the Grisha army receives fresh food and good lodging, so Mal goes to steal some fruit for Alina. Unfortunately, he's caught by a Grisha named Zoya, who can manipulate air, but instead of punishing, she begins flirting with him and even tries to convince him to spend the night with her. Even in a world of total fantasy, pretty privilege is very much a thing. Mal instantly turns her down as he has to be with his friend, but he then presents the bowl of fruits to Alina and the two eat together. During this, Alina is clearly worried for Mal and tells him not to go on the mission, but he must. The next morning, Alina, who still doesn't want to get separated from Mal again, comes up with a plan. She burns the maps of the coast of West Ravka so that the special team is forced to take on some cartographers to chart the voyage. Just as she planned, her unit is reassigned, and by the time she gets on the ship to cross the Fold, Mal can't stop her. The ship moves through the Fold with the help of a squaller who boosts wind in its sails. A few more Grisha are on board, including an Inferni who can control fire. They set the rules. Everyone must be quiet for the journey and are under strict instructions not to light any lanterns. The only light they have is from one blue lantern meant to keep them safe as they enter the Fold. They find the atmosphere to be completely dark. The only light visible is from occasional bursts of lightning. As they venture deeper, they hear the roaring sounds of the Volcra, dragon-like creatures that fly through the air. Not long after, the blue lantern goes out, prompting one of the soldiers to light a fire lantern. This turns out to be a terrible decision, as the Volcra are immediately alerted to their position. They then launch their attack on the ship, killing the armies one after another. One of the soldiers, named Alexei, is so terrified that he jumps off the ship and starts running away. Shortly after, Mal is grabbed by a Volcra, but he tries to fight back with a knife. In a bid to save her best friend, Alina grabs a shotgun from the floor and shoots the monster, fending it off. She then rushes to the injured Mal, but another monster grabs her from behind. Mal holds her hand tightly, not to let her go. At this very moment, a bright light emanates from her body, revealing her to be one of the rarest Grisha, called Sun Summoner. No freaking way! On the shores of West Ravka, the soldiers await the arrival of the supply ship. After a few hours, they notice Alexei running out of the Fold, who soon faints on the ground. Meanwhile, the rest of the ship is somehow propelled back to the East Ravkan shore, with the injured Alina and Mal lying side by side on the deck. The scene then cuts to Ketterdam, a city on the island of Kerch. Although it's part of Ravka, it got separated from the country's capital city due to the Fold. There, we are introduced to a criminal mastermind, Kaz, who receives information from Inej, an indentured slave who is contracted to him for her expert tracking skills. Turns out that a wealthy merchant named Drisen is looking for a team to cross the Fold into East Ravka and retrieve something. He's willing to pay handsomely for this. The only problem is that Kaz and his crew are not the only ones who know of Dreesen's job. A rival gang leader, Pekka Rollins, who has a past with Kaz, is also desperate to get the contract, but her name sucks. There's no way she's going to get it. To get ahead of Pekka, Kaz decides to get a head start. Upon learning that Dreesen is looking for a Grisha who can manipulate people to tell the truth, Kaz immediately tracks down one named Milana. He buys her time for the night and takes her to Dreesen. Once there, they find out that Dreesen has kept Alexei as a prisoner, believing that the soldier has information about the Fold. Dreesen instructs Milana to extract all the details from him. Upon doing so, Alexei reveals that he was saved by a sun summoner. After Dreesen promises him freedom, he also tells them her name, Alina Starkov. However, Dreesen ruthlessly guns him down after retrieving this information. He then orders Kaz and his team to traverse the Fold and bring Alina to him. The scene then cuts to a flashback, showing Mal, Alina, and other children listening to a storyteller in the orphanage. During that, some Second Army visited the orphanage to test the kids in order to determine whether they were Grisha. Fearing that the two of them might be separated, Alina and Mal ran away from the orphanage building and hid in the field. Back in the present, an injured Mal is taken to a medic in the 1st Army camp, while Alina is taken to a healing Grisha. After a quick treatment, she is escorted to a 2nd Army tent, where General Kirigan is waiting for her. He confronts her regarding her powers, but she's still in denial and claims herself to be a cartographer. As a result, he cuts her arm, and much to everyone's surprise, a bright beam of blinding light emerges from her body.
Well, I'll be damned. She's a shiny magic princess.
Before Alina can even process her new Grisha identity, she's whisked away and taken to the little palace to train under the eyes of Kirigan and the king. Meanwhile, in Ketterdam, Kaz is desperate to find a way across the Fold. However, Inej has another problem. She's still property of a brothel owner, Helene, who has been renting her out to Kaz. She won't be allowed to leave Ketterdam without Helene's permission. It turns out that Kaz has been slowly paying off her debt, but he doesn't have enough to buy her freedom just yet. Later that night, he is visited by Pekka and his men, who immediately start beating him up for taking Dreesen's job. He offers Kaz two options: back out from the job, or else he'll execute him. He then leaves after providing Kaz with some time to think. Afterwards, Kaz spots a woman in his casino who is counting the money in the same way as the East Ravkans do. Suspecting that she's from the other side, he summons her to talk to her in private. After a brief persuasion, she admits that her daughter is a Grisha, and not wanting to be separated from each other, they fled here. Hearing this, Kaz instantly offers her some money to know how they managed to make it across the Fold. She doesn't know much, but she has a name: the Conductor, who helped them. On the other hand, Inej is summoned by Helene, who already knows of Dreesen's job. She has a proposition for her. She'll settle Inej's entire debt if she kills a man for her. Helene implies that the man is a human trafficker and hands her an address where he can be found. Inej is reluctant as it's against her religion, but she's unable to turn down the proposal because of its reward. It is revealed that he's the same Conductor whom Kaz is looking for. While on the way to the little palace, Alina and the escorting Second Army are ambushed by a group of Fjerdans. Because of their overwhelming numbers, they manage to take down several Grisha and guardsmen. One of the assailants almost gets to Alina, but Kirigan shows up and uses his shadow magic to cut him in half.
Shadow Blade.
After this, the general and Alina ride away from the scene on a horse. A while later, they stop for rest and engage in a conversation. He explains the importance of her power, that she's the only one who can destroy the Fold. He further asserts that she'll always be a target due to her rarest ability, but that she's not alone. After a brief chat, they continue their journey to the palace, which Kirigan addresses as the most secure place in the entirety of Ravka. Sometime later, they arrive at the palace, where Alina is granted her own lavish quarters. She is completely awestruck by her huge fancy room, with a closet full of clothes and a luxurious bathroom. Despite this, she does miss Mal, who is also worried for her. In the next scene, Inej captures this so-called human trafficker and recognizes him as the same person who kidnapped her and her brother and sold them when they were little. She holds him at knife point and demands to know her brother's whereabouts. When she receives no information from the man, she prepares to kill him. But in the nick of time, Kaz shows up and asserts that they can't kill the Conductor, as he's their only way to Alina. Following this, he orders the Conductor to show them the way to the little palace. Now that Inej is unable to do her job, Kaz thinks of another way to barter for her freedom. Later on, he goes to Helene and offers her his entire casino as collateral, assuring to pay her in full once they return from the mission. The following morning, Alina wakes up from a dream about a giant glowing stag. I'm no Freud, but I believe that means she's horny. Moments later, a parade of maids storm into her room. They instantly start preparing her because she is to be taken to meet the king in an hour. Once she is ready, she is passed off to Kirigan, who leads her to the king and the queen. The general introduces Alina in front of the highness and a small audience, after which he prepares to demonstrate her power to them. He firstly engulfs the hall with shadow before grabbing her wrist and amplifying her power. Consequently, the light erupts out of her, creating a bubble of brightness around her and Kirigan. This impresses everyone, including the king, who then orders that she be trained quickly to take down the fold. Later that day, Alina goes to the palace library to learn more about her unusual dream of the stag. While she's going through a book, which says that she's horny, she is approached by the king's creepy spiritual advisor, the Apparat. Upon seeing a stag book in her hand, he decides to tell her the real story behind it, the story of the bonesmith, one of the first Grishas in recorded history. According to the Apparat, the bonesmith wanted to amplify the power of the Grisha. He used his magic ability to create animals from his own bones so that he could infuse them with power. Legends believe that if a Grisha kills one of these animals and melds a piece of its bones to theirs, their powers will be enhanced exponentially. After finishing the story, the Apparat presents her with a book as an act of friendship. He then drops her off with Bagra, an elderly instructor renowned for training Grisha and harnessing their powers. Bagra is a tough woman who isn't easily impressed by Alina's power. Realizing that she isn't ready for the training, the old woman tells her to come back once she comprehends the true worth of her abilities. Later that night, Alina writes letters to Mal, describing everything that's going on with her. She mentions that the glitz and the glamour of the palace are great, but she'd rather be in some dingy tent with him. Elsewhere, Kaz, Inej, and a sharpshooter Jesper make their way towards Little Palace, guided by the conductor. On the way, Kaz wonders how they can sneak into the palace, to which the conductor tells him about a heart-render Grisha, Nina, who can manipulate people's minds. But before they can get to her, she is kidnapped by an elite group of Fjerden witch hunters called the Druskell. The writer of this story friggin' loves making up words. In the aftermath of this incident, the conductor wants Kaz and the crew to give up on their mission, but they refuse to do so. Kaz tells him to help them cross the fold, and they'll figure out the rest of the way by themselves. The conductor agrees, but it'll require 3 items: 20 pounds of coal, a peck of a special plant, and a goat. Don't ask what I want with the goat, says the conductor. Kaz then sends Inej after the special plant, Jesper after the coal, while he himself goes to get the goat. While gathering these items, Jesper gets distracted by people gambling on the street. He also starts gambling, only to lose all of the money he had been given to buy the coal. Thus, he resorts to stealing the coal before returning back to his crew. Later that night, the conductor leads the crew to train tracks near the border of the fold. From there, they board a train and take off. However, there's a problem. Jesper has only managed to steal 16 pounds of alabaster coal. As they make their way deeper into the fold, they're suddenly attacked by the Volcra. Since they don't have enough coal, they can't outrun them. Soon after, the train starts getting besieged, and for a moment, it looks like they're not going to make it. But in this intense moment, Jesper shows off his marksmanship and begins shooting all the Volcra, ultimately marking their way out of the fold and into East Ravka. Subscribe for more videos like this, turn on notifications, and leave a like to help the channel out. Thank you for watching.